Hey everyone, and welcome! Aberration and Bob's Tall Tales Part 2 has just dropped, and along with it, a whole bunch of new items and new features. One item in particular that's gotten my attention is the gene scanner and the new gene trait system. So in this video, I'll be explaining what that is, how it works, how you can utilize it, and some limitations. And when it comes to whether it's overpowered or whether it's pay to win, we'll get to that in the end of the video. First of all, let's talk about what this gene scanner actually is. So first things first, throughout the entire game now, for all of ARK, whether or not you have Bob's Tall Tales, all wild tameable dinos will now spawn with a random trait or random gene. This is a permanent effect and just a whole new category of stats. Imagine mutations and experience levels being categories. Now we have genes as well. Now this is applying to all new wild dinosaurs, so if you've been playing Aberration, already in effect. If you're playing on other maps, you might need to do a dino wipe, otherwise all the current wild creatures will not have any traits, but the feature will be active. If you've been playing Aberration, or just a new server or done a dino wipe since it's all dropped, every wild creature that you tame will now have a trait. For example, my Ravager here, if I use the gene scanner, we can see that it already has a trait called Desert Bearing. If I hold H to enable more tooltips, you can now see that Desert Bearing means it reduces the weight of the following resources by 15% when in its inventory: silk, raw salt, sand, cactus sap, and sulfur. A bit ironic, I get a scorched earth trait in this first Aberration video, but I digress. And that is the case for all creatures. My raptor is cowardly, my dodec is aggressive, my bulb dog has a slow metabolism, and my stego has tenacious, which is damage taken is reduced. Oh, that's really good on the stego. Anyway, so the gene scanner and the gene storage are both unlockable level 86. This does not require tech, to my surprise. No tech, no element. The gene storage is powered by electricity and can be powered by tech, whereas the gene scanner does not require any power at all. So once you've gotten yourself a gene scanner and you can now look out for these traits, typically speaking, whether or not you have Bob's Tall Tales, I imagine that these traits will just be ever present and you probably won't even know that you have them. I don't know if they'll kick in and affect your tames, maybe they will, maybe they're invisible buff, but in any case, it is more of a Bob's Tall Tales accessible thing to really utilize, but I think you can still use it even without. Now, what makes this really unique is that you can extract these genes and apply it to your own tames, and your tames can have up to 5 individual unique traits at a time. So, for example, let's say I were to spawn in a lantern pug, a bulb dog. So we've got a brand new bulb dog, which, as you can tell, it's got a tenacious gene. These are randomized and every creature will have different genes. So the brand new bulb dog has tenacious. If I now tame it, it'll still have tenacious, and now that it's tamed, I can extract it and now store this gene myself. This will permanently remove it from the tame. You cannot apply genes to fully grown dinosaurs, but you can apply genes to any unmatured creature up to 99% maturity. So baby, juvenile, adolescent, you can apply or mix and match your genes as much as you want, so long as it is not fully matured. But when it is fully matured, you can still rip the genes out and recycle them and store them away. So for example, we've got a couple more now. We've got a food robust one, which I will just go ahead and take. We have, we have a quick hitting one, which again, we shall now take. Now, an important thing about these is that, as you can see, it says bulb dog. These are species bound. This one over here has slow metabolism. So I can now only move these between bulb dogs, so you can't just tame a bunch of bulb dogs and apply it to a rock drake. It doesn't work that way. But it does mean that now all of these, if I were to find a wild baby bulb dog and I was to claim it, or if I bred my own bulb dogs, I can then apply all of these traits onto my new immature bulb dog. So again, just by opening the menu, doing that, and you'd be able to transfer it back in. But as you can see, fully matured, can't do that on the adult one. So here is the gene storage, which has a very steampunky vibe, currently being powered by an electric generator. And like I mentioned, if I have my gene scanner equipped, I can then hit E on the storage, and I can now store all of these traits away. Bit of annoying thing is that it kind of blinks every time you transfer. I don't like that. But aside from that, though, you can now store up to 200 individual genes within the storage, and up to 10 on your scanner at a time. So, if we now look at this gene storage, as we can see, we have a lot more genes in this one. Now, an important thing to note is that genes do not stack. So say you have a couple of duplicates, such as mutable food on both of these here, they do not stack, so it still takes up a slot. They are also not alphabetical, but you can search. And when you mouse over them, it will also give you a little brief of what it means. So in this case, this creature's food stat is highly mutatable, making its offspring more likely to gain mutations in the food stats. So far from what I've seen, there are a ton of different genes in general. I'll just slowly mouse over these and you can pause as you wish. The genes can really vary between utility, between combat prowess, stats. I've seen some that actually make, for example, I think fatty is one gene, where it makes the food stat provide more defense to the creature. And I really like that because it's now making useless stats actually more effective. Another one being the lung capacity, the oxygen stats, means that the creature generates or regenerates health and stamina faster. There's also ones like we saw on the Ravager, where it affects the carry weight of certain resources. And then we got these breedable ones where either it makes stats more likely to mutate, it makes stats less likely or more likely to pass down into the offspring, so it can actually help your mutation farms or stat breeding farms. And due to the fact that you can always withdraw a gene from a fully matured dino whenever you want, you could, in theory, move these mutation or breeding-based genes around and keep on moving to your new breeders to help with the breeding process. Now, the big obvious question is, can these genes be bred? So that's what I want to find out quickly. I have 2 rock drake's eggs here. The level 20 was a cheat get egg command from an existing level 20. So this rock drake should have either giant slaying or protective in the hatchling. I also have a wild natural level 70 rock drake egg, to which I also want to know, do egg tames in general also give you genes? I think they should, but let's find out for sure. So the level 20 should have either giant slaying or protection. In fact, the baby has no traits, and look at this wild level 71. This one does. Interesting. So this random wild naturally spawning egg does have traits, but this one that I cheat commanded get egg from a wild rock drake that had traits, did not get any. So here's another test then. These 2 Rexes both have 2 traits each. These are traits that I've applied to it when they were babies. This one has slowmetabolism and plant bearing, and this one has food frail and fatty. Now, like I said, I've applied these genes to them as babies, I've bred them up, and let's find out if the baby's inherited any of it. And this baby has no traits, so you cannot breed genes, but you can use genes to help your breeding. But again, they will not be inherited, but they can help influence the stats of the offspring. And once again, just to quickly demonstrate, so even though it didn't inherit any of the stats, what I could still do is now take the stats or the genes regardless. So I'll grab these 2 from that one and these 2 from this parent, and I can now apply all of these to the baby. So while it didn't inherit the genes, I still gave it to it anyway. But what it's worth mentioning is that, so you could still create your perfect imprinted dino, but for boss armies, this will mean that you still have to get every individual gene for every individual dino. So say you want giant slaying, you'd have to get giant slaying several times to accompany your entire army. So here's an interesting thought then. I've actually just accidentally applied giant slaying twice, and as we can see from giant slaying, outgoing damage against creatures with a drag rate of 200 or lower is decreased by 7.5%, but outgoing damage against creatures with a drag rate of 500 or higher is increased by 2.5%. I just applied that twice. Does that mean it stacks? Let's find out. So Giant Slayer benefits attacking creatures with a drag rate of 500 or plus. This Diplodocus has 575, so I should do bonus damage to this. On my brand new, non-leveled Rex, I'm currently doing 235 damage. If I were to now remove one of the Giant Slayer buffs, so again, that was 235 damage, but I attack now, it does stack. However, I only lost 2 points of damage on that. It is all percentage based after all, but it does in fact stack. Very interesting. So now if I were to remove Giant Slaying again, my second one, I'm now doing 231. I've lost 4 total melee damage. Now, if you are playing in single player and you're curious, yes, you can in fact set change baby age to, I don't know, a baby. You can do this, and you can do this to your existing tames as well. This is retroactive to all of your existing tames. So if for whatever reason you actually wanted to cheat, you actually can do that. Now, if I make it fully matured again, and it has both those stats again, and it is now doing 235 damage once again. There are so many different genes, and I am seeing more and more crop up on Discord or on Reddit or on Twitter, etc. Lots of people are finding more and more. So I don't know how some may interact with each other. Now we know that of the same type, identical genes can indeed stack, such as Giantslayer. I don't know if that means it will now also stack with, I think it's Kingslayer. There's another gene that does help you do extra damage to bosses and alphas, so I don't know if that would stack with Giantslayer or not, these two different genes that perform similar roles. I guess that's still questions worth testing out, but this is what I have, so, you know, understand that I can't check all of that, but I'm sure it'll be on the ARK wiki very soon. So, I do believe that is everything to do with genes covered so far. However, since we have the gene scanner currently equipped, there is two other bits of utility that I think are worth pointing out. So first of all, when trying to interact with your creatures, this Equus is currently pregnant, and if I were to try, and instead of checking his gene trait options, I can actually extract the embryo. And I don't really know what that means. It's an egg. Can I chuck this on the floor? No, hold on. Makes sense. It would have been a bit dark if you could. Not gonna lie. Ah, here it is, the Embryo Incubator. Deployable device for warming and monitoring up to 10 embryos at a time. Requires electricity to run. The fact that it requires electricity is really surprising. So this is basically the incubator, but for gestation instead. That's really amazing, actually. That just turns gestation creatures into egg creatures as well. That's great for if you're someone who can't, you know, be online all the time. You need to like manage or change or control your breeding in whatever way you can. That's now an option. Another really surprising addition to the gene scanner is when holding R, instead of just opening up these stored trait options, the gene scanner is a scanner, is a creature scanner. You can now scan creatures. It does not show everything. To my disappointment, it doesn't show alphas, which would have been really useful in Aberration. Unless maybe. I wonder if I was to search Carcanos and if it would include alpha Carcanos. I don't know about that, but it doesn't scan for alphas. It does scan for phoenixes. Obviously not an Aberration, so if I was to click that, it would error out, but on Scorched Earth, that's an option. It doesn't search for unicorns. It doesn't search for everything such as Reapers. You cannot find Reapers or Reaper Queens, but you can find things like, you know, like rock elementals, like the new ling or Cosmo. So I'll select that one then. No applicable creature found on the ARK. That's because I'm in single player, none have spawned nearby. Here we go, so now that I'm back on my server, if I now try to search for a Cosmo and select that, you can see it is now pointing me left or pointing me right. Hold on. No, it means when it's green, I'm in the right direction. So if I just keep on heading forward, I will eventually find a Cosmo. You can see now it's red, and now it's pointing me in the direction. So this is very interesting. I've always been a bit iffy with Dino scanners. I think they kind of take something away from the gameplay for myself personally. I quite enjoy the act of searching and exploring in this game. However, I like how this one isn't just blatantly, you know, go to point A and here you go. I like how you start to try and search. Maybe tedious in the long run. I don't know yet. We'll have to wait and see, but I think it's an interesting one. Definitely an interesting feature that I thought was worth pointing out because I very much nearly missed it. And that is all within the gene scanner. And one other thing to mention as well while we're looking at the scanner is that there is a max level bonus. I think the max level means it is filtered to your level. So say for example a friend was to give you a gene scanner when you just start at level 1, you can only search for small level creatures. I think if you want to search for the max levels, you yourself have to be max level 2 or ascended or whatever. I think that's the way it works. Please correct me if I'm wrong. One more important thing is that yes, modded dinos are affected by this. Modded dinos already have custom genes. Now, all of these creatures here were already existing before the update, so none of these will have any traits at all. However, say I were to spawn in a Buzzboldia, for example, you will see that this already has a gene immediately. It's got health frail, and that means that the creature's offspring has a minus 1.5% chance to inherit the higher health stat of its parents. So if for whatever reason you wanted low health in your creatures, this will actually help breeding that. As another example, Cheetah, STF, Evo, Giga, this also has another one, food frail, so now this will have a reduced chance to breed the food stat. Unfortunately, the scanner does not currently show modded creatures, but that will probably get changed along with the lack of alphas and other creatures as well. So I can search for Gigas, but I can't search for Evo Gigas just yet. I imagine that there will be mods to address all of this, most likely. So overall, is the gene system overpowered or pay to win? I personally don't really think so, because I am fairly confident that without Bob's Tall Tales, you will still have access to all of these genes anyway. They will still just be prevalent on your creatures who will have these bonuses without knowing. Maybe some of them are a bit of a disadvantage, but point being, you will still see it. And as we tested with our double giantslayer Rex earlier, it only lost 4 melee. Now, it is percentage based, so of course if I mutate the crap out of it, level the crap out of it and give it like 500 melee, then yes, those very small percentages will scale very nicely. But once you put in that kind of effort and that kind of dedication, I think it's safe to say that you already have a massive power creep anyway, not to mention your saddles and everything else as well. But in a typical standard playthrough, whether PvP or PvE, whether single player or server, I think a lot of these bonuses are honestly quite negligible. I don't think you'll really notice it in the long run. Yes, it gives you a bit of an edge, but I think that, for example, you know, my Rex of double giantslayer will just be outcompeted by a better tamed wild Rex anyway. You know what I'm saying? And without Bob's Tall Tales, I would have never have known. I would have simply have just tamed a higher level Rex. I think this really only matters to people who are heavily mutation breeding, so the really hardcore players, and in that scenario, yeah, maybe sure, it could be pay to win, perhaps. But when you're playing that competitively anyway, you're probably going to get every advantage you can get regardless. So personally, this particular system, I don't actually think it's that bad. I personally love it. I think this is awesome. I'm really excited to play this properly, full term. I love to see what other people come up with it as well. In official PvP, maybe there'll be exploits that will, you know, come to surface a couple of weeks or months from now. We'll see. But I think it's a nice feature. Now, there are other items in Bob's Tall Tales that are different topics entirely, and I won't get into all of that. But at the end of the day, the gene system, it's cool. I like it. I think it's really fun. Gives you an extra layer of customization to your creatures, and that's something I adore. I enjoy customization options, and I like the idea that I can now further fine-tweak my creatures and really have them maximize the roles that I want, but I still have to put in a lot of effort to do it. I can't duplicate genes, I have to go and grab more ones constantly, so it's a lot of hard work I had to put in, and it feels all the more rewarding, and I get a really cool specialized dino out of it. Now, if I were to get this really amazing imprinted creature, all the best traits, and then I killed it, that I think would, that'd be very sad. Now actually, with that in mind, what if I were to lose a creature, so this one's got high endurance, if I were to then, you know, it got killed, could I get the trait back? You can recover genes from corpses, I see, but I imagine you'd have to be very careful to get to the corpse before I get harvested. So let's try that again then. This one with a cold trait has just died. Let's go ahead and harvest this corpse then. Could I get it from its bag? No. But I could resurrect it. Well, that's just opened an entirely different topic altogether. Alright then, I'll wrap it up here then. That's a rabbit hole. Alright then, please, if you have any questions, do feel free to ask me. I think I've covered everything, but I would happily research more and find out more if you have any more questions. Or if I've got anything wrong, or if I missed out anything, also feel free to correct me. Always happy to learn and improve, and otherwise, I do hope this video has been a big help. I personally like this feature a lot, and I'm excited to see what people do with this. So thank you again for watching. Hope it helped, hope you all have fun with Aberration, and I'll catch you all again next time. Cheers.